I wasn't joking when I said it had been data mined. We know the exact results of food. Turns out giant egg is the best food. You should always be feeding your monster giant egg, and you know, if you don't have any spices to make it stop hating stuff, swap it out for nutritional pellets every now and then. But that said, it's not actually the best food. The actual best food is palm nut bread, which is made by combining 10 Oasis palm nuts and 5 wheat flours. You can find those in the sculpting, the desert anyway, the plus defense, and then the windmill turning one. You find those, you get a food that gives you basically the same stress result without actually lowering your fear. Obviously, you can't give your monster palm nut bread every single week, but if you do have it, it is the best food available. Easier time finding item trains than farm wheat flour. You definitely could do that. How do you make food? So the way you do feasts is right here. It shows you right here. You need to have a certain number of items of each, and then it will automatically prompt you to make it. It'll like pop up in your food list. You can feed it to your monster. Just the same way that it shows up with like the shocking Odin and the Kanizo omelet and Ultraman curry that you can get from the cooking area. You can do the same thing with this. It'll just show up in the list if you have the availability for it. So with that, raising methods. So this is kind of like, you don't really need to do this, but there is a no rest method. No rest method is very, very basic. And this no rest method now requires a little bit of loyalty to function properly, because stress and fatigue need to be kept in check as normal. Anger doesn't really need to be kept in check. You don't really lose anything when your monster rampages, except for the weeks of lifespan that it spends doing the rampage. Shouldn't really be a big deal most of the time, unless you like absolutely need to maximize your stats and you're running out of time. In which case, you can do mandarin juice with a hard drill, and then this relaxing cocoa one here. If you see this no rest at 50 to 70 loyalty, this stops your monster from going on rampages. I don't actually think this loses no life. I think you probably need to throw in 2 Astromints, or at least do mandarin juice astromint every 2 months. So I think you need to swap back and forth. The Tyrant Cookie kind of blows this game open. If you have the Tyrant Cookie, you can do heavy drills almost every single week. It's super, super easy. There's not a whole lot of stuff you gotta worry about. The only reason it mentions this baby schedule that's different is that the Kaiju biscuit boosts your monster's dependence like a crazy amount, which is a really easy way to get to 50 loyalty, at which point, you know, you don't have to worry too much about your monster going rampaging as much as it normally does, and like failing drills and shit like that. So that's why it suggests this baby schedule until you're maxed out your dependence, but you don't really need to do that. Also, there's some goofy stuff with Magic Banana, but I literally never use Magic Banana. I haven't bought a single one yet, so I'm not too worried about that. Usually do Astro Mint on a week. I have a territory battle for the anger loss along with it. Yeah, that's a pretty smart idea too. Shocking Odin also looks like the best food. It's not as good. Yeah, so the reason I said it is because this one gives you 3 more dependence than the Shocking Odin does. But otherwise, I mean, it's fine, right? Weight gain is completely inconsequential. If you're doing no rest, your monster will always be skinny. How much lifespan does high stress waste? We don't exactly know how the life index works in this game. So, you know, just keep it in control. Okay, one more thing I want to show. These right here. Shallots. And then the capsules are actually pretty good. You lose 1 week of lifespan for a skill capsule, speed capsule, power capsule, and dodge capsule, along with the shallots. But you gain 200, you gain net 100 points. It's pretty solid, though I would suggest against using it if you drop 100 of a stat that you plan on raising later. If it's a dump stat and you absolutely don't need it at all, like say you're using shallots and you're not going to be raising a tank, the minus 100 here is completely inconsequential. But coming back out of this minus 100 hole is actually kind of a big deal, even if it's a stat your monster is good at. So if your monster has bad stat gains and you're worried you're worried about raising them, I think just doing it the way you do in Monster Rancher 2 normally, which is in baby and adolescence, you raise whatever stat they're best at, and then you wait for prime to really crank the shit out of your bad stat gains. I think that's probably the way to do it in this game as well. I don't think spending 2 weeks of lifespan per week on the ranch when you're losing 100 in a stat that you're going to raise anyway is actually a very good play. I think it's going to be more of like an intuition thing. You'll know when it works, and you'll know when it's not a good idea the more you play. So is it worth using in a baby stage? I think it's explicitly very powerful if it lowers a stat you have no intention of raising at all. I think that's probably where you should end up getting most of your stats at a baby stage. But the -1 week can add up if your goal is to raise, for example, like the skill capsule that raises life and skill but lowers speed. If you're trying to raise your speed later, this is actually like kind of a bigger hit than it looks like. Even if your monster has like an A gain in speed and you're like, oh, that's easy, I'm gonna gain like 150 next time I do my speed drill anyway. I don't actually know if that's actually that good of a call. Only if you're going to do it a couple of times. I think if you're going to be focusing on using the drugs to actually raise your stats, like I did with Fast, my Alien Metron, I fed it about, I want to say 50 or 60 pills to raise its power. Because that's like a 5,000 to 6,000 gain. That was super easy for me to do. Please add a -100 intelligence pill. I know. But yeah, use it in baby stage. Don't use it in prime. You're gonna be wasting so much lifespan in prime. That's hugely detrimental. Real bad call.